Hello, everyone. This is Cynthia back again with another really interesting interview. I just came across Anne, and I think she has some really helpful information for parents of children with ADHD. Hi, Anne. Can you
Oh, thank
introduce
you.
yourself to our audience?
Of course. My name is Anne Alvarez. I am a parent coach, a school counselor, high school counselor, and the mother of two boys, ages 25 and 15. So because I've been a teacher for so many years, I have seen so many different kinds of kids. And I've also counseled children who have had let's say, learning challenges ranging from like autism to ADHD, learning disabilities, learning challenges, things like that. And I've also have friends that are moms to children with ADHD. It is different, it is difficult at times, but we have to remember that each child comes to us uniquely. And our job as parents is to pay attention to what our children's strengths are and what their challenges are. And then that way we can meet their needs. Really, a parent's job is to meet the needs of their children. And they have basic needs like love, attention, connection with you, but they also have other needs that maybe they need support with because it's more challenging for them to learn these things.
So, your thing is their masterful parenting. How did you get into that field and what got you started?
Because I've been working with families for so many years, like 20, 30 years, I realized that the way to make impact and change is to work with parents. Because when you change parents, you change families. Basically, that's it. And I grew up in a very dysfunctional home. I would even say it was toxic. It wasn't healthy, and I was abused, like emotionally and sexually abused. And so I had a lot of healing to do from my childhood. And as a result, I don't know, I just had this desire not to repeat the patterns of my childhood with my own children when I became a mom. So I knew that I had to heal it so that I could be a better parent. And it was a process, but I decided I was just going to be aware of when I was personalizing or if I was repeating patterns like yelling with my kids, that I had to stop that and focus
Could
on
I
them.
ask if you needed to use therapy or was this something you did on your own?
So I've always been interested in psychology. I took a lot of psychology courses in school, in university, and I'm really into self-help books. But I did have a counseling session. It was actually the first session where I revealed my whole childhood story to anybody. And it was the first start of my healing journey. So that helped a lot. But I did have to learn what was healthy because I didn't know what was healthy when I was a
Right.
kid because I grew up with unhealthy.
So you observe your own parents and you don't know if they're being good parents or not. And then when you realize that you're damaged and you go back and say, oh my gosh, my parents weren't able to do the best job with me, you went out on your own to work on how to become a better parent.
Yes, I was still experiencing toxic behavior from my mother as an adult, and it was really affecting me. In fact, it affected me so much I moved away for 3 years because I just needed to be away from her. But those 3 years were really good for me because I was able to process things, get some distance, and understand her a little bit better. Because I think when you suffer from childhood pain, then you know it's because your parents had childhood pain.
Ah, family,
It's
generational.
totally generational. When you understand that, you can have more empathy for your own parents. right? You can say, okay, what was their story? I got very curious about both my parents. Like, what was their childhood? What was their story? What happened with
Right.
them?
This is a little off topic, but I'm really curious. Is your relationship with your mother still toxic, or have you been able to change how you relate with her?
It has been so good. It's taken a while. It's taken a long time. But when I learned that I have a voice and I can speak openly with my mother, and that I chose to be honest with her because I couldn't be honest as a kid. So I said, I'm not that little child anymore. I'm an adult, I'm a woman, and I can express to my mother how I truly feel. And I did actually tell her without hurting her, because this is the thing with kids is they don't want to hurt their parents. I didn't want to hurt her, but I wanted her to know that my childhood was not great. So I had
Hmm.
that conversation with her when I was like 29, 30. And I said, Mom, I just want you to know I'm not blaming. I'm just explaining how I felt as a kid.
Yeah. For me, sometimes I have trouble expressing myself in a kind, gentle way. I've been asking AI, how can I approach this problem with my whatever? And they give help me with the language. So I just want to throw that out there for listeners that if they're thinking about having a difficult conversation with their parents, doing what Anne has done because it's a healthy thing to do, AI could help you with the language.
That's such a good tip. I never thought of that. I had to learn the skills for counseling because you need those language skills when you are counseling kids. So I did learn that. So that embarked me on this mission. This mission of parent coaching came from a tragic event that happened in my life 4 years ago when my husband left me. And I loved him so dearly, but he was having a lot of mental health struggles, and we never really recovered from COVID. So it hurt me deeply. And I didn't imagine my life without him. And now I have my life without him. And so I just released it because I knew that actually the way we were living was not healthy. I released the marriage. I released my idea of what my life was going to be
Uh,
because I didn't see my life without him until he left. And then I
yes.
realized that I had to see my life in a different way. But I didn't know what was my direction. I still have two kids. I'm a single mom now. The financial burden's on me, all these things, right? So honestly, I just leaned into prayer and God. And I asked God, actually, my life is yours now. What would you have me do? And I don't know, his words were so clear. He said, I want you to be part of the healing of this world. That resonated with me because I had to heal. I still was healing, right, from this broken relationship. I had to heal from my childhood. And healing really spoke to me, that word. But I realized that where I was impactful was with parents because I was able to make strides in my students' lives by coaching their parents.
So you're
So,
already doing some of the work. You just
yes,
didn't know that it could be a career for you.
yes, exactly. Yes. And then since then, I developed a program, a course with coaching that uncovers like your childhood, the healing of your childhood, and then ways to connect with your children because maybe your parents didn't connect with you. And so you have to learn, how do you connect?
You're saying you're mostly working with parents who are feeling uncomfortable that they are good at parenting and they want to uncover the reasons why. You help them with that, and then you help them to learn the good behaviors for parents.
Yes, I help them to understand that maybe some of the things that they're doing is a repetition of their childhood, what they learned, and that actually it's not healthy. You have to want it. You have to say, I want to be a better parent than my parents were. And I would say we're not blaming our parents because maybe our parents didn't know. We're in
Right.
2025 now. We're so much more emotionally intelligent. And back then, they just followed what society told them to do, and that is control your kids, make sure that they're behaving. Like that was the norm. But I'm saying actually controlling your kids is not healthy and it's not good for our kids because it undermines their self-esteem.
You're saying a lot of parents will know that how they were parented wasn't that great, but they don't have a good image for what they should do, and it's difficult for them to do something different than their parents because they don't have any concept of what to do different.
Exactly. Exactly. Because it wasn't modeled to them. Yeah.
So, if you move forward to what you think is modeling good parenting, what kinds of things would it include?
Oh, okay. So the number one thing, I went to a parenting workshop with a pastor, and he said we have only two jobs as parents. The first job is to love our children, and the second job is to teach them how to love others and God. And so that's totally simplified it for me because when you are loving someone, you're not yelling at them. You're not screaming at them. You're not trying to control them. You're not trying to manipulate them, right? When you are truly loving someone, you are listening to them, you are working with them, you are trying to build relationship with them, right?
Mm.
So I think if you simplify it that way, say, okay, I'm demanding this from my child. Do the dishes. He doesn't want to do them right now. He's busy. So I'm going to yell at him. Okay, is that love? Are you loving your child when you're yelling at him? Right? So I think that's where you got to stop yourself because that's maybe how your parents were. They'd be like, get off your butt and do the dishes. Maybe you don't want to do that now because actually it's not loving your child, right?
Mhm.
It takes reprogramming.
Right away, what comes up for me is, yeah, if you're loving them, how do you still get them to do the things that they need to do?
Yes, this is where I have the secret.
Oh, you have to take the class to find out.
I'm just going to say, I don't punish my kids. I don't yell at my kids. I am relational with them. And because I'm relational with them, they want to comply
Can you
because
describe more what relational means? Because it
um,
sounds a little loosey-goosey in a
oh,
way.
so relation parenting is I'm going to focus on my relationship with my child. It's the same with any relationship. It could be a friendship, it could be a marriage. I'm going to focus on my relationship with the person so that they feel good, they feel understood, they feel heard, they feel cared about, that their
Yes.
opinion matters. Okay. So that's the foundation of relational parenting. I call it feeding the emotional bank account. Every day you're feeding the emotional bank account with your kids. I love you, honey. How was your day? Tell me more about what you did.
You wanna
This
make
is all.
deposits, you don't wanna be making withdrawals.
Every time you get mad, every time you yell, every time you order, you're withdrawing. You're taking the money out of the bank account. You're taking the love away. And we want to fill it up with love. And then we make a request. Do you think you could help me? And I say, use a question because a question is an invitation. If you say, do the dishes, that's not an invitation. And nobody wants to do it because you're talking to me like that. But if you pose it as a question, do you think you could help me with the dishes? Honey, I'm really tired. You filled up the emotional bank account. They care about you. Oh, yeah, mom, I'll help you. Can you give me a minute? I'll be right there in 5 minutes. Okay. Right? Now there's no arguing, there's no battle, and you're getting cooperation. But you got to
Hmm,
start it young. Like the later you start, the harder it is. It's not impossible, but it is harder. It's much
mhm.
easier when you have established relationship right from the beginning.
The way you talk, you make it sound easy. Is it easy?
Okay, you have moments. Like I have a teenager now. The teenage years are hard. Toddler and teenage, those are the two toughest stages of our children's lives because they're both defiant. Defiant, want their independence, don't want to listen to you. But those times are good because they're establishing boundaries and they are learning about themselves. So it's actually a really important stage, especially as our kids are growing up and becoming adults. You want them to express how they really feel. and tell you, you don't need to help me, mom. I've got this. They need that. But so it is challenging. Those times are challenging. What do? I take a deep breath. If my son is complaining or arguing with me, and he does argue with me, we're not like living in this rosy land, right? We have discussions. I say they're discussions. I let him voice it, everything. But if he is crossing a line where he's blaming me, then I'm going to call him on it. Because I
Mhm.
think you have to have boundaries with people because you're teaching him you can't be unhealthy with me when I'm healthy with you. So I will tell him, "Be honey, you know what? You're blaming right now. How does blaming solve this? Because it doesn't make me feel good when you blame. How can we fix this?" And then he'll stop and he'll think because now I'm inviting with a question. I don't want us to blame. How are we going to problem solve this? Blaming is actually not good.
It
And then he,
sounds in a way you make it sound easy, but when you go to how you talk, it certainly sounds like so much awareness and so much new learning to learn how to talk that way that you're always coming in with curiosity and not coming in with judgment or I already know how this is going to go.
yeah, I think you have to stop and breathe. I get mad, but it's less and less. I made all my mistakes with my first one. My
Yeah.
second one is lucky. But when I feel like I'm getting triggered, here's a trigger word, okay? Disrespect. He's
Yes.
disrespecting me. Okay, that's a trigger word because when you were a kid, you didn't feel respected by your parents. And sometimes that comes in my mind, and then I'm like, hold on a second. He's not disrespecting me. You have to reframe it in your mind. He's not disrespecting me. He's expressing how he's feeling, and that's okay. It's not just like the blaming. You have to nip that one in the bud because teenagers do like to blame you. So you have to say, how is that helpful? Does that help us? Let's problem solve instead. I don't know. That always stops him in his tracks. And he's okay. He actually doesn't blame very much now. I think maybe once or twice after I've had this discussion with him.
Yeah, it's good. Mm.
I just feel like we have to look at our children and see what they need. One of the questions I tell parents to ask themselves is when your child is struggling, ask yourself, what does my child need right now? Because it'll stop you and it'll help you to think, does he need or she comforting? Does he or she need help with something? What does he or she need right now? And then it also takes away the personalization, which parents of childhood pain tend to do. They personalize, they make it about them when it's not about them, it's about their child. So if you can just slow it down and then understand, learn as much as you can about the ADHD, the profile, what they struggle with. You would do that for any kind of physical illness. You'd be like, oh, okay, so what are the symptoms? What are the signs? Like, how is it treated? So it's no different for that, for ADHD or even with autism. I've worked with autistic kids, counseling teens with autism. You have to understand their profile so that you can help them with the areas that they're struggling with, because it's not their fault. And it's our job as leaders of the family to figure out what's going to work.
So you're saying that the parent, by slowing down, they really try to tune in to where the child is. And that's what they're trying to explore or to be on that level. Figure
Yes,
out where is the child. And that's
yes,
where they establish the relationship.
yes. Because you're trying to understand instead of judging their
Mm.
behavior.
But what comes up for me then, Anne, because often if a child hasn't been diagnosed with ADHD, they don't even understand themselves why they did something. I had a graphic example where I worked. I was a social worker, but I spent all of one afternoon sorting through the papers of a woman who had died at the facility. And when
Wow.
my supervisor asked me that, I don't know why I did that. It was like I just got started on it and I couldn't get out of it. I don't know. It wasn't like it was that interesting, but I'm just saying that sometimes when we expect children to understand why they did something, they might not have the answer.
It's true. Often our children cannot, maybe they might not have the language or the experience to explain. But what you can do as a parent is monitor your own energy and anxiety because often parents, they feel anxious when they're not understanding their children or they can't figure out the behavior, right? And our kids feel whatever we're feeling.
Ah,
That's why we have to be aware of the energy that we're bringing into our homes. Because if it's anxious, scared energy, honestly, I've worked with so many teenagers with anxiety, and often their parents have anxiety. Their parents are
mhm.
anxious. So it's our energy, they're going to feel that and they're going to react to it, right? But if we're calm, we're regulated,
Mhm.
we give the message that we can handle this. This is a small problem, we can handle this. Then they're going to be calmer. Their brains are
Yeah.
going to calm down.
Yeah, they feel more secure because they're
Yes.
around a parent who makes them feel secure.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah. And I know it's not easy, especially if you grew up with fearful parents. I grew up with fearful parents, so I do get anxiety. And then I need to help myself. I need to say, okay, hold on. What are you afraid of? Like, why are you being afraid?
Labeling, trying to figure out what you're feeling and labeling it to me is so helpful because it's almost like then it can dissipate. That if you're
Yes.
saying, yes, I'm feeling somewhat depressed and it's because of blah, blah, at least once I label it, for me, it becomes a mute issue.
Yes, yes. Because you're like, okay, now I know where it's coming from. So I don't have to listen to that.
Yeah.
I don't have to be that. Our kids all have gifts. So even with the challenges, there are gifts. And our job is to look for those gifts, right? Not to focus on the challenges so much, but look for the gifts that they come with because they might be super talented with math or music or something else, athletics. That's their gifting. Focus on that. Give them good self-esteem about their giftings, and that's
Mhm.
going to help with the challenges.
I don't know. Any other pearls of wisdom for us?
I think once we relax a little more, we can enjoy our children more. I- Really,
Ah,
honestly, my oldest is 25. I can't believe it. I remember crying when he was 17 and I was putting away, I have a little book and I put every year his pictures and his report cards, everything. And I put his grade 12 photo in there. And I remember just getting really teary saying, oh my gosh, my job's done because the time went so fast.
mm.
And so we can't let it slip without enjoying them. We have to have joy with them.
It seems like we've covered the topic. I can't think of it.
Pretty good.
Uh,
Did we
I've,
do it all?
I don't know if people listening, but I hear so much that I wish I had done as a parent. All that loving talk that I don't know if it would ever be easy for me to do that, but I didn't grow up with that. I grew up knowing my parents were there for me, but I never grew up with a lot of I love you language.
Yeah. I
Eh,
didn't grow up with it a lot either. I think I could count on one hand how many times I heard I love you in my whole childhood.
Yeah,
But
same.
yeah, but I don't know. With my kids, I want them to know. So I will say it almost daily when they were little.
It seems because I didn't do it and now I regret how it has evolved. It seems like almost a magic pill to be saying that, but I think the words have to mean more than the words.
Yeah. Yeah.
The words are like frosting on the cake. The
Yes.
cake is the actions, the relational piece
Yeah.
of parenting.
I was counseling an autistic student. I counseled him for 2 years. I'm actually really proud of him because he made so much progress. But I was working with his mom and I told her, like, maybe tell him that you love him. But then he told me he didn't want to hear it from his mom because he didn't feel it. And so I think that's what you mean, Cynthia, right? Like you have to have the action. Our kids need to feel it
Mm,
before you say it. Otherwise,
yeah.
it's just words.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Anne. It was delight talking to you and good luck with masterful parenting.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. I really enjoyed being interviewed by you. And let's keep on this path of diagnosing girls.
All right. We'll do that.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
We believe all girls with ADHD should get a fair start in life by getting diagnosed by age 8. Visit us at www.findtheadhdgirls.org. Thank you.